Hi guys, Casey Talks EV here. So for the last few days I've been driving around in a Lexus UX 300e. First of all, I would just like to thank Lexus Whole so much for obviously lending me the car for the last few days. I've been first of all able to get a really good sort of impression of the car, as well as I've also been able to do my range test and a charging curve test, which will be the video released after this one. So I just want to say thank you so much Lexus Whole for lending me the car. So I think today's video will first of all talk about some of the good things about the car, things that I find that might have significant room for improvement, but also I do want to talk about two, how do I put it, elephants in the room, let's say. When I was doing my initial research for the car in particular, what I noticed was that some people did have, how do I put it, reservations about the car, and I thought I would probably address those two things in this video. So anyway, let's get started. So in terms of the good bits about the car in particular, I think first of all, you can 100% tell that it feels and drives like a Lexus should. It is so refined in here. It is, the wind noise on the motorway is absolutely serene. It is so quiet in here. You don't feel like you're doing 70 at all. In terms of the interior build quality, I've probably got some footage here of it. Everything that you can see, at least within your eye line, as far as I'm aware, is soft touch plastic or either leather or Alcantara type material. The only bits of hard plastic which I have noticed are bits that you don't really ever touch. So the bit above the heated seat controls and the heated steering wheel. Oh, by the way, the seats are ventilated as well. That's hard plastic, but the rest of it is built so well. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't expect anything less from a Lexus. With respect to sort of driving and handling dynamics, to be honest with you, I know this is a crossover SUV, so you're not going to be expecting blinding performance, but genuinely, I mean, the best point of comparison I've got is, for example, my ZS EV or the MG5 EV. Most certainly it is noticeably faster. Pickup from, for example, 50 to 70 miles an hour is much improved. You can spin the tyres if you're not too careful. So performance-wise, is pretty good. I would say that whatever they're claiming, I think it's 7.5 seconds 0 to 60. I'd say that's conservative. In terms of other things, you know, it is fairly easy to maneuver. Parking-wise, it's fine. This car is the top spec Takumi model, or I think it's called the Takumi pack. This car, you know, it's got all-round 360-degree cameras. That's helped me so much. I mean, the biggest issue with my ZS EV actually is the fact that it doesn't have front parking sensors, and it is a bit difficult to judge because you can't really see the front. This car's got it, and it is absolutely brilliant. That kind of leads on to the infotainment system. So the infotainment system, it is one of those, it has got the Lexus sort of trackpad. Now, to be quite honest with you, I know that a lot of people really don't like it, and I'm not really the best person to talk to because I'm left-handed, and for me, this actually worked really well. I was able to fully control it right off the bat. So forgive me, but I do quite like the Lexus infotainment system. I personally think as well that this is a lot easier to control, especially while driving. At the end of the day, with a touch screen, you know, you do have to look down at the screen, and also this screen's quite far away, to be honest, anyway. This isn't a touchscreen. You can only control it via the touchpad, but this system works very, very well. Also, the heater controls and general climate control, as far as I'm aware, I think this has dual zone climate control and heated seats in the back. It's also got a heated steering wheel, which, I'll be honest with you, it's one of the main gripes that I do have with my ZS EV. You know, it is first world problems after all, but it is one of the gripes that I do have. It doesn't have a heated steering wheel, and that will be really nice in the winter. It also has ventilated seats, which has been quite nice due to the odd weather that we're having very recently. But yeah, the inside of this car is absolutely spot on. It feels like a Lexus. It's built like a Lexus. So I think from that standpoint onwards, I think they've got this absolutely sorted and bang on right. A couple of the good things about the car is that I absolutely love the stereo. By far, that is the best stereo I've ever listened to in a car. This has got a Mark Levinson stereo. I did look up the details. It's a 980 watt, 13 speaker stereo, and it is absolutely amazing. As again, I mean, in terms of the infotainment system, it's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so I basically use that. I don't ever use the built-in sat-nav anyway, and it is very responsive. In terms of other respects, as I said, all the comfort features are just so... I think I'm going to miss them when I go into my ZS EV, let's say. There are a couple things that I have noticed about this car. Some software bits and bobs seem to be very odd, let's say. For example, I noticed that for some reason you can turn on and off the battery cooling. I don't really know why anyone would want to really do that. I didn't really notice it. I mean, when I was outside rapid charging, I didn't notice any fan noise. So I'm not quite sure why that's a thing. Other things as well, when it's charging, I think it's like see you at home mode, and I have no idea what that means. I don't know whether I'll post it here, but I don't know what that means. Yeah, little software tweaks like that, I think. With respect to the electric car components of this, obviously this is, well, technically, as far as I'm aware, this is both Lexus and Toyota as a group in general's first attempt at a fully electric vehicle. When I was doing my research for this car, I could understand why people had a lot of reservations. Don't get me wrong, I don't agree with the way that, for example, Lexus and Toyota market their self-charging hybrids. At best, it's misleading. At worst, I think it kind of puts a wrong perspective on electric vehicles. I mean, the amount of people that I've spoken to have gone, oh, I've got an electric vehicle, and they turn around and they've got a hybrid that's not even a plug-in hybrid, kind of concerns me. But then on the other hand, I don't think you can blame the person, at least, purely because of the marketing that Toyota and Lexus have. So yeah, I do understand the reservations of it, and I do understand that obviously, you know, Toyota and Lexus have been late to the market with respect to this car. However, I'm going to say this right now, and this might for some reason end up being a controversial opinion, but I like this car. As an electric car, it does work quite well. This car has a 54.3 kilowatt hour total capacity, so I've just done the testing of it. It's around 48 kilowatt hours usable capacity. And it has a rough motorway range of approximately 150 miles from 100% down to 0. That's not bad at all. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, okay, when you compare it to, I don't understand why, but a lot of reviewers have been comparing it to the Model 3. This is, bear in mind, a crossover SUV. I personally think the best point of comparison is the Volvo XC40 Recharge. Yeah, when compared to the Volvo XC40 Recharge, it is down on range and it is down on charging speed. However, then when you look into things like spec levels and prices, a little bit of research online that the Volvo XC40 is a little bit more expensive. I think it's 4 or 5 grand spec for spec. The only spec that isn't spec for spec is the fact that this doesn't have a panoramic sunroof. It does have a sunroof, but it's not panoramic, whereas the XC40 Recharge has. So yes, I can understand that obviously some people might find that uncompetitive, but in objective terms, let's say, I'd say there is really nothing wrong with the electrification standpoint of this car. You know, it has the range. If it's good enough for you, then, well, there we go. I mean, honestly, there doesn't seem to be a huge compromise in the fact that obviously this platform is based on, I would guess, it is an electrified platform in a way because, you know, it is a hybrid, but in other respects, I guess it's not a built from the ground up EV platform. So that means they haven't been able to possibly, this is complete speculation, but put a bigger battery into the car. One interesting thing that has happened though, I guess, is that I think the boot is larger. I'll quote the figures down there, but I'm sure the boot is actually larger in the electric one than the hybrid car purely because of the packaging of the batteries. So I guess actually you've probably gained something there. This car, in my opinion, the range is adequate at least, and in terms of charging speed, it's also fairly reasonable as well. So really, I don't have a lot of reservations for this car. You know, as I said, it's very comfortable. You know, I've spent literally the last 3 days, and I've been all over the place. And the thing is, this car's done pretty well. I mean, I've not been left stranded, but bear in mind I have had an EV for the last year and a half, so I think there's that too. So, elephants in the room. So, number one, it's got a CHAdeMO plug. When I was doing my research, I noticed that a lot of people said, don't buy this car, it's got a CHAdeMO plug. In my honest opinion, and this might start to get a bit controversial, but I just don't see that being a particular problem at this point. Don't get me wrong, I've done my research. CCS has 100% won the format war against CHAdeMO, okay? I know full well it has, especially when you look at the EU stuff, as well as the new thing that France is doing. CCS has 100% won the war. And in this video, I'm 100% not getting into politics, because I know full well what happens when you get into politics on YouTube. But in my honest opinion, I think it wouldn't make any business sense for any charging companies to get rid of CHAdeMO at this point in time. So, I mean, I had a look at some of the charging networks. So, for example, InstaVolt use CCS and CHAdeMO. Genie Point use pretty much, well, technically CCS and CHAdeMO as a tethered plug on their Rapids and AC sockets. NG, so that's for mostly in West Yorkshire. They same affair, same charger actually, to be quite honest with you. Alpha Power, their 25 kilowatt DC chargers have both CCS and CHAdeMO installed. BP Pulse or Free, and even the GridServe and Ecotricity collaboration that's going to start happening later this year, or even this already started actually, coming to think about it. They're using triple-headed to replace their old triple-headed, and then as far as I'm aware, they're using CCS and CHAdeMO. So honestly, at least from the charging network standpoint, we're not going to get rid of them. And bear in mind, these chargers do last a reasonable amount of time, probably for the next 5 years at the bare minimum. So I don't see them getting rid of them for the sake of technological advancement, because that's probably the only reason that I can honestly think. And the second reason is that by doing so, and this is the business interest standpoint, by doing so, what you've actually done is you've alienated a significant portion of your customers. Put it this way, so the Nissan Leaf has CHAdeMO, and that's the 24, the 30, the 40, and the 62. Now, bear in mind that the 40 has similar range to this car. Well, maybe a bit less, but the thing is, at the end of the day, these are mid to short range EVs, especially with the 24, 24 and 30, meaning that actually they're going to be using the rapid chargers more often than other cars, especially looking at the longer range vehicles. And therefore, if you got rid of CHAdeMO, which, okay, I know that it does cost a little bit more, it must cost a little bit more money to install on a charger. You know, you're adding an additional tethered connector. I mean, I heard rumours that apparently one connector, either a CCS or CHAdeMO, costs about £2,000. So yes, you are adding a bit of cost to your charger, but you are also alienating your audience as well. So from a business standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense. And in fact, actually, I might as well say all the other cars that also support CHAdeMO while I'm at it. So Nissan Leaf, the triplets, so that's the Peugeot Ion, Citroen C0, and Mitsubishi i-MiEV. And then you've got the Kia Soul EV, and then you've got the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV as well. So at the end of the day, I just don't see CHAdeMO going away anytime soon. The only reason I think there might be some, you know, differences at this point is obviously the biggest sort of up-and-coming charging provider, Ionity, is a consortium of manufacturers who only use CCS. So they kind of do have a vested business interest not to have CHAdeMO. At the end of the day, it's useless to them. Well, except obviously, I think Hyundai Kia is part of the consortium and the Kia Soul EV. But anyway, what I'm basically trying to say is that I don't think CHAdeMO is going away for easily the next 5 years, possibly even 10 years. So even though the standard has lost the format war, I still don't think it's going away anytime soon. So the second elephant in the room, I think at this point, that I do want to mention is the price of this car. It's a bit difficult, really, to kind of judge it. I mean, if you judged it on an objective basis, I mean, clear enough, there are other cars which have more range, charge faster, possibly the same interior quality, and by extension, a much larger battery pack. You know, as I said before, the Volvo XC40 Recharge is about £5,000 more, roughly spec for spec. Let's be honest with you, it does have, I mean, it's a, 75 kilowatt hour available or usable capacity, versus this one's 54. So there is that too. Don't get me wrong, there is that. However, I still don't think that this car is particularly directed to people like me, for example, who own, for example, an MG or a Kia or whatever. I think this is probably where I'm gonna start the sort of conclusion, really. Personally, I think this car is in pretty much most cases a compliance car, really. That's not a bad thing in any respect. I personally think the more EVs that we do have available on the market, the better. Purely because it's a compliance car doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to rate it poorly, because I'm not. Personally, I think this car will be aimed at the type of person who already has a Lexus. So they have a Lexus hybrid, and sooner or later, even now possibly, they won't be able to get into London, for example, without paying the congestion charge, which is, you know, I think it's now 15 quid a day, £15.50 or something. It's expensive, right? So this is the car for them, because at the end of the day, they're already used to the quality of a Lexus, the refinement of a Lexus. They want that car, Okay, and this car is most certainly the car they're probably going to get, and future Lexus models, I guarantee, will probably be very good. I think the thing is, at the end of the day, that's who it's going to be aimed for. Not to mention as well, York's considering a zero emission zone in the, I think probably within the city walls. So this car will be great for them, because also range isn't necessarily the biggest factor either. But don't get me wrong, it is expensive. I mean, if I had to put a price on what this car should be, then I would say approximately any more than about 45,000, and I think it would be too much. I think at 45,000 with the top spec package, you know, with everything included, I'd most certainly in a heartbeat buy it. It is that sort of level, obviously if I could afford it. It's that level of quality, and it's just the little things that I noticed in the car that just made it such an enjoyable experience. Even basic stuff like lumbar support, heated steering wheel, ventilated and heated seats. The infotainment system works really well. You know, little things like that really kind of made me go, you know, it is certainly worth more than, for example, my ZS EV. And that's not me being unfair on the ZS EV either. I love my ZS EV. But the thing is, at the end of the day, this car has targeted the market that it wants to. And most certainly it isn't me, but I've really enjoyed my time with the Lexus UX 300e. And hopefully that's not controversial. It might be controversial, but you know what? It is a very good car. So anyway, if you like the video, like it, or at least you found it informative. If you dislike the video, please dislike it. Click on the bell icon below to be sure that you are informed of future videos that I will be putting out very soon. So anyway, thank you for watching, and talk to you later.